Hello, hello. So full transparency, this video is a hard one for me. But I recognize that if I want to be able to share of myself and be of service to the world, that I'm going to have to record sometimes just as I am, and I don't always want to wear makeup or just like I don't always want to wear makeup. And sometimes my face is just going to be very human and very red and blotchy, and I'm going to have dark circles, or I'm going to have hair in strange places. Sometimes I get a little chin hair here. So this is me, and I'm showing up and working through the anxiety that comes with being totally raw. So what I wanted to talk about is grief. And the way that I have visualized grief is actually, it's pretty fitting for what I feel like I go through on a daily basis. So my visualization for grief is basically a ship at sea, and there's waves. So I'm the ship, and then the waves are grief, and the waves can be huge, and they can feel like they're gonna capsize my ship. I'm gonna drown in the waves of grief, to the point of where, like, maybe I feel like I can't breathe, and like I'm literally gonna die. Like my body hurts, and I'm literally going to die. That's what grief feels like to me. When the grief is fresh, I feel like these waves are massive, and I personally didn't feel like I was going to survive it, and so I took steps to kind of mask my pain to some extent, to numb myself out to my pain, because I literally felt like I could not survive feeling the intensity of my emotions. So full transparency, I started vaping again, which I had used vaping in the past to stop smoking. And after my partner passed away, I started coming down to this pond. I started coming down to this pond, and I would just like smoke a cigar and drink a can of root beer, because we used to share a can of root beer when we would go to pick up our like takeaway food. I would buy a can of root beer, and then we'd split it. And so yeah, it was just something that I just started doing every day. I would get my cigar, and I would get a can of root beer. And eventually it got to the point where I was buying full packs of cigars and smoking multiple a day, and just kind of really like sucked back into a full-on addiction. And so I decided to start vaping again, and I got supplies for vaping, and because again, I told myself I need to numb out to some extent. I need to be able to numb out a little bit. I can't handle the full range of my emotions. I can't handle it. Like, it'll kill me. Like, I can't do it. Like, feeling is like the scariest thing in the world for me. I've been made wrong my entire life for being a deep feeler. And now there's this circumstance here in my life where I actually have to feel the full range of emotion. I actually have to feel without numbing myself out in order to be able to like heal. And it's the scariest thing I've ever had to do. Like, literally scarier than childbirth. Like, childbirth was nothing. This freaks me out. Like, my human self will do anything possible to not feel the full range of emotion. And but the thing with grief is that if you're not feeling it, the thing with any emotion, any human emotion, is if you're not feeling it, like actually allowing yourself to fully experience it and feel it and let it like pass through you, it's going to stay stuck in your body, and then it's going to come up and it's going to come out when you least expect it, and it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be a fun time. You're probably going to hurt people in your life. You're probably going to have regrets. But the reality is, like, if you're stuffing any emotion down or like masking it with drugs or alcohol or nicotine or shopping addiction or food or constantly like on the screen or like any addiction, right? Any compulsion you have. So that's anything that just like, you know, you feel kind of powerless against it. That would be an addiction, right? A compulsion to do it, even though you know there's other things maybe that you could be doing or that you should be doing. That compulsion to do it and feeling like you're not in control, that's an addiction. And the issue with distracting ourselves from our pain constantly is it doesn't get actually dealt with. It gets stored in the body and causes more issues at a later date. And so anyway, the waves of grief can sometimes, waves of emotion even, can sometimes feel like you're not going to make it through. Like it will literally kill you if you feel the full range of what you need to feel. But I'm here to remind you that you can make it through it, that you are stronger than you feel, that if you truly want to be able to move through whatever emotions you're going through, you have to allow them, like save space. You have to hold space for them to be seen and felt and then released. And that goes for any emotion. You know, happy is really easy. We're like really, really good with happy. Most people are really good with happy. Although actually, when I was depressed, I wasn't good with happy. Happy wasn't something that I would really hold space for because I didn't know how. I was like addicted to my sadness. So I take that back. But yeah, we've got to learn how to like, that's why I did a video on slowing down, because it's like, if you don't learn how to actually slow down and feel whatever you need to feel, it's gonna stay trapped in your body, and then you're gonna suffer for longer, and that's no fun. So learning how to feel, it sounds silly to say it, but so many of us are so disconnected from our own bodies. We stay so busy, or we stay so stimulated that our bodies don't really have a chance to express whatever they need to express. So that's why I did a video on slowing down. It's really important to actually allow your body to speak to you. And grief is a really scary one, but it needs to express, and it'll only do that if you slow down long enough to actually allow yourself to feel whatever comes through. And another point I wanted to make about grief, actually about any emotion coming up, is the human mind will try to attach stories. So like, let's say, okay, I'll give you an example. The grief of my partner passing. My mind And more so in the past. I've got a handle on it now, but in the past, maybe a week ago, let's say, I would be hit with a wave of grief, and then my mind would go to, I wasn't really a good girlfriend, or I didn't love him right, or I could have done better, right? And that story kind of keeps me stuck in the grief. That story actually perpetuates my pain. It actually amplifies my pain. It keeps me underneath that wave of grief even longer. Whereas if I can just learn to observe, okay, the grief wave is coming in and I'm hit with it, and then I just make sure I observe my thoughts, I focus on my breathing, and I just pay attention to whatever thoughts come through. And if they don't serve me in getting through the grief wave, if they are literally meant to keep me stuck in my anguish, I don't accept them as my truth. Every thought you have is not your truth. It's literally the human mind just kind of comes up with shit, just throws shit at you, and you get to decide whether you attach or not. And when we're going through like really emotionally intense times, especially, it's super important to kind of keep a handle on your mindset. Like, what stories are you playing in your head, and are they actually serving you in your healing? Are they actually serving you in being with the emotions that come up? Your stories don't always serve you, and I think it's really important to pay attention to those stories that are playing in your head. At the end of the day, I'm not really going to know whether I was a good enough girlfriend or I loved Brady in the way that he needed me to love him. At the end of the day, like, that's going to be once I go home, once I pass away and I join him in the afterlife, we can look at it. But for now, like, it does not serve me to look at that, because it just perpetuates the anguish, the heartache, the grief, right? So I think it's really important to feel whatever you feel, but just be mindful of your thoughts and what your thoughts are saying while your emotions are coming through. It's not always necessary to have a story attached to whatever emotions are coming through. Sometimes the body will just express sadness or anger or whatever it is, because that's what it needs to express. And the human mind wants to attach a story to it and like perpetuate that emotion. And it's like, it can honestly lead to more suffering. So I think that's all I wanted to say. Yeah, so to sum it up, grief is like a huge fucking storm. You're the ship out at sea and you don't know that you're gonna make it. My advice is to enjoy the calm within the storm. And enjoy, I mean, even just rest in it, like find something to allow you some peace within the calm. If you're constantly running stories in your head, whether you're going through the storm, the waves, or you're going through the calm spots, you're exhausting yourself and you're going to be really struggling through those waves if you don't learn to embrace the calm and do your best to calm your mind when there's calm in between the waves of the storm. So I think that's all. Yeah, that's all for now. With love and light, take care of yourselves.